And so here I was drawing a person's body, say, look, this is your hips and this is your shoulders, and you have to connect the dynamic of your hips going this way to your shoulders going this way in order to reach for alignment. In Pilates, everybody talks about being eccentric, coming out from your core, right? Out from your center. And in the world that I was growing up in, here is your powerhouse. You used the word powerhouse yesterday instead of core. I like that a lot. Because powerhouse is right out of Joe's lips to yours. And core is out of everybody's lips. And to me, that's an abstract, might as well say cloud. Right? You come from your cloud, wherever that is and whatever that is. You get a deeper cloud, and I want a stronger cloud. That's good. I haven't used cloud before. But this whole thing about core, we'll get to in a second, but the idea of eccentric, I was on here. If this is an octopus, and that octopus grabbed onto something here and grabbed onto something there and gripped, it would pull apart at its middle, here where the curve changes direction. And when a curve changes direction in science and math and physics, it's called an inflection point. And so in my world, sure, this is your powerhouse, and ideally you want a really strong grip here. But once you have a grip here, okay, all right, hold on. So what is this? And don't leave with my car. So it's something that rotates around the middle, right?
Yes.
Okay. How did you get that to go back in? I just have to stuff it in there. What'd you do? What'd you do? Oh man! Wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Does it work like that way for you too?
No, it just does that.
All by itself? Do it again.
All by itself.
How does that happen?
Spring loaded in there.
Right. Spring loaded in there. So, in terms of engaging your core, right? If I just give you a sheet of paper and I say, okay, roll a piece of paper up, like, roll it up. And here's the challenge. Without unrolling it, without crunching it, roll it up tighter. See, in both right people. Went to the inside, and from the inside, rolled it up tighter, right? That's this whole thing about Pilates and core and engaging your core. The engagement of core is a tightening of the grip and drawing itself tighter from the inside. And to me, anatomically, that's the Kegel contraction, because it shuts off fluid. We're nothing in our body if we can't shut off the outflow. You know, we would be an empty balloon without having the ability to shut off fluids. So shutting off fluids is the beginning of controlling who it is we are, defining who it is we are. And that control goes internally and draws us into the condition of core, not just the location of core. Because every time someone talks about, I want a strong core, this core, that core, I let the conversation go and I loop back around and I say, well, tell me, you know, what do you mean? What do you mean by core? You want it or do you want it? You can keep it if you want. What do you mean by core? And anybody you ask about core, I would almost guarantee you they would almost always say a location. They can say cut off the head, the arms, and the legs, and that's your core. They can say right around here, that's your core. They can say the 23 muscles that engage the da-da-da-da-da, then go into real deep anatomy, and they can say that's your core. But they're talking about a place rather than a condition. And so, where is the point on that page I'm referring to?
Very center.
Pardon?
Very center.
Well, of what?
Going from all four corners to the very center on a diagonal.
But what if that's not the point I'm pointing at? I don't want the center of the piece of paper. I just want a point on the piece of paper. How do I define the point on the piece of paper? And that sounds
It's
really...
your own choice.
Well, if there is no point, there is no point until there's a circle. See, it's weird. A circle defines the point because it's equidistant from everywhere else, right? So rotation in and of itself defines the point around which the rotation occurs. So that when you make rotation, you're defining the point. So that the core isn't just the axis that the hips revolves around, it's the revolving around the hips that defines where that point is.
Okay.
Okay with that? Here's my favorite sentence. And it has to do with galaxies
It's a spiral, isn't it?
and weather. That when movement shows up on the stage of reality, when movement shows up on the stage of reality, it comes out in a spiral. Right? So, loss of control is an expanding spiral. So, to reverse that process would be an involuting spiral, or to reverse the spiral into a tighter grip, or to head toward the center rather than expand out of it. So, if we're a balloon, hilly-nilly going through a spiral, what we really want to be able to do is work that backwards to gain some control of the expansion so that ideally we control how much we expand and how much we involute to the point where we can be stable around an axis.
What energy brings the involute, though?
Pardon?
It's the energy of the air leaving the balloon, so to speak, that creates that expanding spiral. But what brings it back? What energy
What does bring
does
it
it
back?
take to bring it back? Motion. What?
Before that, will.
Okay, thought.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Process
Will.
of manifestation.
And even before thought.
Thought leads to feeling, leads to action.
Because when the tiger's all of a sudden jumping out of the jungle at you,
I'm running.
and you're not, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that takes me off into the breathing segue of, in the beginning, some people can't coordinate their breath to their effort. You can say, get on the reformer, inhale, push out, and they short circuit. They can't do that. So it's just move, and then finally when that's familiar enough, you can say, okay, now coordinate effort to breath, and we spend so much time in that. But ultimately, when you're running from the tiger, you can't say, wait a second, I got to exhale before I make my leap. You just have to do it intuitively, right? So the core is a condition, not a location, that determines a location. And the true point of eccentricity is between two axes that rotate to create that tension that allows you to expand from that point, inflection point. So in Billings, I was there recently, and this lady comes in, frail, 2 discs in her neck are bad, surgeries. She says, the doctor tells me to stand up straight. I says, well, okay, do that. I said, well, how do you know you're standing up straight? And that was a tough one for her, because she had no way to know if she was or not, because there was no way to find sensation. But when we got going into Cornu spiral between shoulders and ears, there's a way to make tension between the 2 axes, and that tension creates the alignment. Okay, so I'm off and running in my enthusiasm now. I'm not sure where I am in my outline.
What was it?
Well, I didn't mean to, yeah. So there I am, I'm teaching a body. I'm teaching people to be a body like this with hips and shoulders. And it was Irene Downs' book, Taking a Route to Fly, where she had a picture, just a drawing of a woman seated. There was an axis at her hips, an axis at her shoulders, and an axis at her ears. And then I started thinking about this, and we're strongest at our ears, curling this way, which is opposite shoulders. And it was like, okay, you know, we've got the body is hips, the body is shoulders, the body is ears. You know, and I taught for a long time that way, telling people that's how we had to connect, and students always teach you. And some students said, Michael, we don't walk around as a quadriplegic. They've got knees that bend this way, and they've got ankles that bend this way, and they've got metatarsals that bend this way. Pretty poorly drawn, but that's the gist of it.
Now you got your girl.
And then I got my girl. I went to a t-shirt shop and had anthropomorphized a shape around that. And she kept wanting to make little bitty toes. You know, toes that were more proportionate to the body. But I want tiger toes. I want that feeling of grip and the ability to make a rotational dynamic or an end point of tension. So the word end point for me is any point around which we rotate. And when you make an end point, you make something upon which you can create tension if you have two of them interacting. It drives me crazy in the yoga world when you're standing on one leg and they say, push out through your heel. And then they'll talk someone and they'll say, pull your stomach in. And they'll talk for a while and say, pull your toes back. But they won't use causality. I mean, they won't say, pull your toes back to pull your stomach in. You know, do this to get that, to make this sensation. And so I had t-shirts. I was all proud. I registered the trademark, and I'm all interested in anything has to do with spirals, and so that, you know, that's a gift from somebody. That's a, you know, old growing thing, ammonite. And so there is not just balloons or galaxies, but organic life itself is a expanding spiral. I'm right in your line, huh?
You're up my alley.
I'm up your alley, for sure.
There you go. We're on the same boat.
And
Haven't lost me yet.
And so, you know, I'm making postcards that show Cornu overlaid on a galaxy that's expanding, or the actual Cornu of a hurricane, where it's not just the one hurricane, but it really does have a counterbalancing energy to it that's oppositional.